بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Eid al-Fitr 2022. I think this is the first Eid after a couple of years that people would be meeting in mosques and so on, because places of worship are now open after coronavirus and so on. I just want to explain to you about Eid al-Fitr, or actually both Eid prayers. They're slightly different from Jummah prayer. In Eid prayer, namaz is first and khutbah follows. And namaz is also slightly different in that in the first rakah, after takbir, which is Allahu Akbar, you recite up to Fatiha, and then there are 7 extra takbirs. And then after that, we pray in the normal way. And then in the second rakah, we say Allahu Akbar and stand up from sajda. And then there are 5 extra takbeers. And then the rest is as in the normal prayer. There is also an additional prayer that you should say for 3 days, which is Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Walillahil hamd. So you should be saying that at least 5 times a day, but you can say it as much as possible for 3 days following the Eid prayer. So if we line up, we stand up and line up, then we'll start the Eid prayer. Boys, being naughty, can line up next to me so I can keep an eye on them. Yes, I know you're protesting, you're not naughty. That way, shoulder to shoulder. And there, I forgot to say, there's no azan and there's no takbir for Eid prayer. Allahu Akbar. 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 Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدعو اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون اللہ اکبر سمع اللہ لمن حمدہ
ربنا
اللہ اکبر 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 الحمد للہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده
ربنا
اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. The month of Ramadan is that in which the Holy Quran was revealed, which is a guidance for humanity and has clear proofs of the guidance, and it is the criteria. The word Eid, actually, let me just explain. I'm more or less reading Hazrat Amir's Eid message, which has been circulated from our center. The word Eid means a day of happiness. And there are many ways of thinking why it is a day of happiness. For me, it's a day of happiness because now when giving the khutbah, my throat gets dry, I can take a drink of water. See, here we are. And for your parents, it's a day of happiness because if in the middle of the day they feel like going to get a Coke or a Pepsi, they don't have to remind themselves, oh no, I'm fasting. And I can't eat or drink anything until I break my fast. And for you, it's a day of happiness. Why? Because your parents bought you new clothes and toys and things. And if they haven't, make sure after the khutbah is over, you go and pester them until you get new clothes and toys. Okay? But it's a day of happiness because when people do something good, they think that they're doing someone else a favor. That shouldn't be the attitude. When you do good for someone, you should be grateful and give thanks to Allah that He put you in a position where you could help someone else. Not that, oh, look, I'm so high and mighty and I'm so rich or whatever, that this person was poor and I gave them food, or this person was weak and I helped them across the road, etc. Many years ago, about 100 years ago, a man went to Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, whom we regard as the promised Messiah and Mahdi, and he asked him, he had just qualified as a doctor, and he asked him for some advice. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said to him, when a sick person comes to you never consider his religion or sect or nationality or anything. Before you greet him, thank Allah that he put you in a position that you are able to take away someone else's pain and sickness. And really, it is a matter of being grateful. And we are happy. Why should we be happy? Because for a whole month, God gave us a chance to specially think about helping people, concentrating on helping people. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, he said that your fasting is not complete until at the end of fast, you come out of your house and you go to your neighbor on one side and knock on his door and ask if he has food in the house. Then you go to the neighbor on the other side, knock on his door and say if he has enough food in the house. And then you go to the neighbor across the road and knock on his door and ask if he has food. And then if they say yes, it's fine. If they say no, they don't, provide them with food. Then you go home and you break your fast. People always forget about this important aspect. There are so many thousands all over the world who are in need of our help. The verse of the Holy Quran that I recited in the first rakah, its translation is, God says, shall I show you the people who bring religion into disgrace? These are the people who don't feed the orphans. They don't feed the needy. They don't hug and love the orphans. But when you look at their prayers are very low. What God is trying to say there is that unless you have sympathy and love for humanity in your heart, then everything else that you do is not very meaningful. And really, it starts in the home, your own home. And a part of that is teaching your children the right thing from wrong, teaching them to read the Quran, teaching them to say the prayers properly, and so on. That is all a part of discharging your duty, explaining to your children that Islam is about love and inclusiveness and peace and kindness. You know, someone put a picture up on Facebook and I really liked it. It was a picture of a girl crying, obviously hungry and in need. And the caption read, someone asked her, are you a Muslim or a Hindu or a Sikh or a Christian? And she replied, I'm hungry. And she replied, I'm hungry. And I put a comment up saying, when God does not distinguish between people, when it rains, when there is sunshine, God doesn't say he's a Hindu, he's not going to get rain. He's a Christian, he's not going to get sunshine. He doesn't distinguish. And when God says in the Holy Quran, towards other people behave in the same way as God behaves towards you, why is it relevant when we want to relieve someone's pain, when we want to relieve someone's difficulty and hardship, whether they should be Muslim or Christian or whatever. It's even sadder in those countries where Muslims are in a majority, where they, not only do they ask what religion are you, they also ask what sect are you. Are you Sunni? Are you Shia? If you say you're Sunni, then are you Deobandi? Are you Barelvi? If you're Deobandi, then which subset of Deobandi are you? You know, I always wonder that these people are followers of the man who came to unite humanity. When the Holy Prophet Muhammad went to Medina, he entered into a treaty. It's the first written constitution in the history of mankind, humankind. There's this Treaty of Medina. Because there were Muslims there, there were Jews there, there were Christians there were people who worshipped idols, there were people who didn't believe in anything. And they all had to live together. And the first line of that treaty is everyone living in Medina is one community. The only restriction was that you had to be loyal to the state, to the government. And we see this all over the world now. You know, government's concern is not your religion in most countries, certainly in the West, only that you don't plan and scheme with the enemies of that country to overthrow the government. We prayed, we fasted, we've said the Ravia, we've read the Holy Quran during this month of Ramadan, more than we usually do. But one thing that is always missing, and that is how much effort did we make into understanding the Holy Quran. You know, my Rifat's brother has a parrot. And it calls out the azan. It calls the azan out more beautifully than any professional qari I've heard in my life. So what do you think we should do? Should we appoint that parrot as the imam of the main mosque in Islamabad? He doesn't understand what he is reciting. He does it most beautifully. Yes, beautiful recitation is one thing, but you should also understand what the message of the Holy Quran is. We insist in forcing people into this religion or this sect and so on. What's the point of abstaining from food and drink? Abstinence means that you abstain from everything that harms anyone else or yourself. In a spiritual sense, it's the sin, it's doing the wrong thing. But in a worldly sense, it also forcing some idea, some belief on other people. The Holy Quran tells the Holy Prophet Muhammad, your job is to deliver the message. If you've done that, well, that's it. The rest is between me and the man. That man. I will take care of it. In another place it says to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, I have not appointed you a judge over people. In the final analysis, it's only God who's the judge. All that we should do is to try and be nice to everyone, to be good to everyone. And that starts from your own home. If you can't be nice to people in your own home, how are you going to be nice to other people? You may be nice to them because you're a hypocrite and you want something from them. You may be nice to your boss because she's going to recommend your promotion or your pay rise or whatever. But it has to be sincere and genuine. That's why the Holy Prophet Muhammad said that a time will come when the Holy Quran will not go beyond Muslims' throats. Now, what he meant by that was that they'll recite the Quran a lot, but its teaching, its love, its sincerity will not go beyond there into people's hearts so that it moves them. And that was the whole point about the companions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, that the Quran moved them. It inspired them to doing good. The power and wealth and things of show of this world didn't matter to them. The Holy Prophet was lying down one day and there was a knock on the door, and it was a bare bed. Leaves and so on, palm branches. There was a knock on the door and he got up. They opened the door and it was Hazrat Umar Razilullah Ta'ala who was standing outside. And when the Holy Prophet turned to go and sit down on the bed, Hazrat Umar saw that the palm branches had dug in to the Holy Prophet's back and marked it. And Hazrat Umar was very upset and he started crying. So the Holy Prophet turned round and said, "O son of Khitab," this is how Arabs addressed each other by taking the father's name. This is why you have a surname, Aziz. So the Holy Prophet Muhammad said to Hazrat Umar, "O son of Khitab, why do you cry?" And Hazrat Umar said, "I cry because kings of this world are sleeping in beds, soft beds made of silk and God knows what else. And the Prophet of Allah, he's lying on a bare bed. He doesn't even have a sheet on that bed. And the palm branches from which that bed is made dig into his back and bruise his back." And the Holy Prophet Muhammad replied, "Are you not pleased that I gave up the good things of this world, the pleasure of this world, for God's pleasure and for the hereafter?" There's another incident again involving Hazrat Umar. Hazrat Umar was, the Muslims had surrounded Jerusalem, and the Archbishop of Jerusalem said, "If your ruler comes and talks to us directly, we'll open the doors of Jerusalem without fighting." So this letter was sent by the commander of the army to Hazrat Umar, who was the Khalifa, the leader, the king at that time. And Hazrat Umar got on a horse and took his servant with him. Now, they only had one horse and there were two people. So tell me, what should happen? Should the king ride the horse? Go on.
He should share the horse.
He should share the horse. Yes, you're quite right. And that was what Hazrat Umar did. He would ride on the horse, the king would ride on the horse, then he will get up, get off, and the servant will get on the horse. And they traveled about, I don't know how far it is, 2,000 miles. So the king was walking and the servant was riding the horse. Can you imagine Her Majesty the Queen walking along her Rolls Royce? No, you can't. So what happened was that when they got to Jerusalem, first the people of city were amazed to see that only two people were coming. And then they thought the man on the horse must be the king, and the servant must be walking next to the horse. But who was riding the horse at the time?
The servant.
The servant, because it was his turn. So Hazrat Umar didn't care about what the people of Jerusalem thought. He didn't care. He wanted equality and he wanted justice. And because it was the servant's turn, he didn't say, what are the people of Jerusalem going to say? He didn't care. He wanted to please God. And he wanted to make sure that he didn't do the wrong thing. And I'll describe one more incident and then I'll finish again related to Hazrat Umar. Hazrat Umar used to go around the streets of Medina to make sure everything was okay at night. And one day he was passing by the house and a baby was crying. So he came back and the baby was crying again. So he knocked on the door and said to the woman, why don't you feed that baby? I've heard this baby crying. He didn't tell her who he was. He said, your baby's crying. You seem to be a very cruel mother, that the baby keeps crying and you don't feed it and so on. And she said, it's Umar's fault. So she didn't know who was asking. And he said, how is it Umar's fault? And Hazrat Umar said, and the lady said to Hazrat Umar, that Umar has made a law that mothers will only get child benefit. You get child benefit in this country now, but Hazrat Umar started that 1500 years ago. She said, Umar has made a law that a mother will only get child benefit when the child stops drinking milk, drinking mother's milk. And I'm trying to wean the child off mother's milk. So he starts eating solid things so that Umar can give me child benefit. That's why the child is crying. Next day, in the mosque, after Fajr prayer, Hazrat Umar got up and he said to everyone, pray for Umar to forgive Allah. Because Umar has caused so many babies pain and they have cried because mothers won't feed them too early. Trying to wean them off too early. And he said, from today, the law is changed. As soon as a child is born, mother will get child benefit. This is the king standing up in assembly, asking people to pray to Allah for his forgiveness. So you see, this is how you should be. This is an example of how you should be. That you don't cause pain or hurt to anyone. Not to a cat, not to a dog, not to a horse, not to any animal, not to a spider, not to a bee, and of course, not to human beings. You don't cut down trees and things unnecessarily and hurt and harm them. You don't overload horses and camels because they also feed. So today is Eid, it's a day of happiness. And it's a day of happiness because Allah gave us a special opportunity to look at ourselves, to see how we can improve ourselves and how we can help others and how we can make Allah happy. Okay? So Eid Mubarak, everyone. And remember what I said at the beginning. If your parents didn't give you Eid or buy you presents, you have to pester them. Okay? See, I see it's made you guys very happy.
Smile on their faces.
Eid Mubarak to our audience, our friends and brothers and sisters who are listening online or on various platforms.
I'm still a child.
And I hope to see you on our regular broadcasts tomorrow. In the meantime, I pray that Allah keeps the whole of humanity safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.